All right, so something I did a long time ago, but I haven't done in a very long time, is go over everything about this car. And I feel like there's a lot of new people, so I'm just gonna go over the basics of what I have going on with my 99 Mustang. Very basic body car. The only thing that's not a stock body panel or stock style is the hood is a Extreme Dimensions GT500 V2 hood, and then Extreme Dimensions rear over fenders just so we can replace them if they get messed up. Stock front bumper, stock Mach 1 lip, Mach 1 grill delete. Very basic. I'm a very basic body panel type person. I know people like body kits and stuff, but but I've always stuck. I mean, it's got steel fenders on it still. So the most important thing about this car, no more mod motor in this. I found that if you want to make horsepower and you don't want to spend a bunch of money and waste a bunch of space, you use an LS. So I built a 6-liter aluminum block LS, ported 243 heads, BTR custom grind cam, fast 102 intake manifold, NOS direct port dry shot. I mean, it's got 1 7/8 headers on it, forged pistons, forged rods, stock crank, stock compression, and it makes 420 wheel NA and then 560 wheel on the spray. So it's nothing super crazy, but ultra reliable, ultra simple setup to make power and shred some fucking tires. Believe it or not, I run a stock Mishi radiator for this. It does the job, it works pretty good. Oil cooler, power steering cooler on it. Pretty basic setup, front radiator. I don't like to go crazy. I'm not an advocate for rear radiator just because you get so much less airflow back there that you tend to need like to over pump and over fan to get the air and coolant movement versus just running a front radiator and getting all the airflow over the front of the car. The tube front was done by Alex Grimm. If you don't know who Alex Grimm is, he is the dude that built the crazy contraptions for Hoonigan before Hoonigan stopped building cool cars. It's got BC coilovers on it, Willwood pedal box, Scotty D Race Development angle kit, Scotty D Race Development double shear tie rods, Holley Terminator ECU. I love it. It's as simple as it gets, but as effective as it gets. They come with the wiring harness. It's amazing. We'll go on and we'll see what else we got. ESR CR7s, 18 by 8.5 plus 30 fronts, 18 by 10.5 plus 12 or plus 22. I don't even remember what the rear offset is, but I used to run 17 fronts just for more sidewall on the tire. But this year, actually, I'm really enjoying the 8.5 and then the 255. A lot more contact patch, a lot more front grip this year, especially with the GTs on it. Champiro SX2 RS, gnarly tires. We love these tires. 295 40s on the back. Again, stock doors, stock mirrors, just cut out doors. Cage was done by Alex Grimm as well. This was like 2017 though. This was a long time ago, so don't get too close on it. He doesn't like me to show off his cage work on this one. Full NRG interior, so there's seat brackets, FIA Halo driver seat, just a regular SFI passenger seat, 6-point cam lock, SFI approved harnesses. I even run their gloves. They have their race hub, which means there's not multiple pieces that can come loose. So it's just direct, quick release thing on the console. I love it. I run a Holley 7-inch dash, which is just plug and play with the Holley Terminator. There's no extra wiring needed. All of your sensors go through the Terminator and it just reports it directly to the dash. Customizable dash with all the feedback that we could possibly have. Scotty D Race Development Edge handbrake, of course. I'm running a T56 Magnum. We had a regular T56 in it at the beginning of 2023 and it just completely shit the bed. I mean, it was an old transmission, I never went through it. And then we put the Magnum in and it shifts a lot smoother, but 2024 is probably gonna see another transmission change because already having issues with the T56 Magnum and not pumped on that. So sorry Tremec, but I don't know if it's me or if it's this transmission, but we don't even rev that high. I revved to like 7,300 and the trans should be able to handle that, but I think it's just like the abuse, the slip, tires slip and temperatures and the fact that they use ATF in them. It's just not super friendly. I don't know if people have better luck with the T56 than I do, but Spa Technique, extreme fire suppression. I know that like this is something that not a lot of people talk about, but Spa Technique has this like proprietary fire suppression stuff. I don't know if it's theirs or if it's somebody else's, but it's non-intrusive, non-corrosive. So even if my car starts on fire or somebody mistakenly pulls it, it won't be corrosive to the electrical components or anything else in my car. So it won't take the paint off, it won't like destroy electronics. You just wipe it down and it's gone. So I really wanted to spend the extra money on that because yeah, fire safety is probably like the most important thing in motorsports, to me at least. I also don't want to destroy thousands of dollars worth of electronics if somebody pulls it on accident or if it's a small fire that's manageable. I wanted to have full fire suppression in this. There's a nozzle on the engine, there's a nozzle on my feet, and there's a nozzle on the fuel cell. We have a giant 15-pound nitrous bottle in there. And that's just because I don't like changing bottles very often. Obviously, spatial constraints is probably not the greatest thing in the world, and we could run more 10-pounders and get them out of the way, but it's also kind of a flex to have a 15-pound nitrous bottle. Switch Pro's solid state control panel. You know, the crazy thing about this product is like normally I'm not super hyped on a lot of things. And the irony is that like I'm not sponsored by Switch Pros, never have been, never even got a discount on it. I just love their shit. Like it is the simplest thing to wire up and it works every single time. I've heard horror stories about PDMs, about arc panels. I've heard every horror story about every other control panel or fuse box, and I've never, ever had an issue. So we cleaned the outside of the car, but we definitely did not clean the inside of the car. It's dirty, but that's okay. Very basic fuel cell. It's a Jazz fuel cell. I mean, really just a fuel cell is a box with a bladder in it. There's not magic to it. Maybe I could run a Ball like Radium or some other company, but when I built this, I was not Ball and out of control. So it's a Jazz fuel cell, but the most important thing, and I've talked about this before, is a Holley in-tank pump setup. So they make a specific hat for fuel cells to replace like the filler thing. A lot of people when they run a fuel cell will either run surge tank, like the in-tank surge tank thing, which is really rad, like from Radium or Fuel Lab or whatever. That stuff's cool, but it's like $2,000 for a fuel cell. This is a Holley in-tank pump. It's a 470 liter per hour in-tank pump, which means the pump doesn't burn up. It's sitting in fuel all the time, assuming you have fuel in it. And it has like a crap ton of capacity for fuel. Like we're running that 175 shot plus what the engine's already requiring, and the pump has no problem with it. But it's like a couple $100 for these with the pump. And it comes like pre-wired sticking out of it. And it has AN fittings and stuff like that. So like race car stuff, it's like absolutely the move. And honestly, like there's still so much room that we can go, so much more fuel demand that we can go on this pump. I don't know, it's amazing. There's no point in ever running an external pump in my mind. Plus then you need like a lift and like a surge tank and all that kind of stuff. Never needed a surge tank, never had fuel starvation. I love it. It's pretty straightforward, straight to the point. And then I put a fuel level gauge in there. We've talked about that before, but just to see where it's at. It's hard to see in fuel cells when you're pouring gas into them. So I put a little fuel gauge back here. Pretty basic, but this car is an IRS car. So 79 to 04 Mustangs are all the same suspension like-ish. You know, they're straight axle and then the front. But in 99 to 04, there was a Cobra with independent rear suspension. And so that's what's on here is the 99 to 04 Cobra, so independent rear suspension. It just bolts onto the car. Technically, it's FD legal to run these. Not that we care, but it is a thing. And even then, like, I'm weird in the fact that like, could we run a quick change in this? Absolutely. But center sections are cheap and they're easy to swap out. So we actually run a stock center section with a $100 eBay spool in it. It's a solid steel spool, which theoretically doesn't hold the axles in, but we've never had an issue with that. We got badass AutoZone axles in this that I've broken plenty of. Trust me, I want the axle upgrade. It's the limitations, you know. I wanted to build a car that was super capable for as reasonable as we could. I run a 456 gear in this. Just seems to be the right gear for the transmissions. I don't know, it's a sweet spot. It works really good. I was in the optimum RPM range all year. And the diff is made into the transmission with one of the coolest things I've ever put on this car. It's a QA1 carbon fiber drive shaft. The thing weighs nothing and handles 2,000 horsepower. They're nuts. Super crazy. And then we have all stock arms with just bushings in it, and like you know, bushings in the diff, bushings in the control arms, and then bushings in the subframe to the car. And then aftermarket tow rods that we made. Z32 dual caliper brackets that I designed a long time ago, but it's super basic. And then we have a Z32 handbrake caliper, and it's amazing on this. I mean, with the 295 40s, it locks it up no problem. I love it. Z32 calipers are so small but so effective. Now I understand why all the Nissan guys love those things, because they're so good comparative to the Mustang calipers, which are not great. But it's a super basic car, obviously tube front, tube rear, but tried to keep it as simple as possible, but also like still be super capable. So for the final disclaimer with this was the first and only drift car I've ever owned until we got the Cadillac. The Cadillac is gonna definitely benefit from not only learning lessons from this, but also designing from OEM CAD. So this thing was built in the garage, basically by me. First rip at building like a pro level car, and this is what we came up with. It's a ripper, it's fun. I don't think I can ever get rid of this thing again. But it's a blast, and I'm excited for the Cadillac because that thing's gonna be a whole nother level. I think I went over everything, but again, I've owned this car for almost 10 years, and sometimes I forget stuff. So if there's something that you want to know more about that I didn't go over, let me know in the comments.